Namaste. Welcome back to Temples, Books and Science. I am Archana Raghuram and let's continue our exploration of the Lalita Sahasranama. In our last video, part 20 of our Lalita Sahasranamam series, we embarked on a profound journey into the Ni series of names. These names revealed Lalita Tripurasundari as Nirguna Brahman, the unsupported, untainted, unattached, spotlessly pure, eternal, formless, unperturbed, and ultimately beyond all qualities. Now we continue our fascinating journey into the Nishabda. We move into the 140th name, Nishkala, which means she who has no parts or divisions. Nishkala is a crucial name in describing Lalita as Nirguna Brahman. Brahman, the ultimate reality, is a unitary whole, not composed of separate components. It reinforces the idea that the ultimate truth is a singular unified existence, transcending all fragmentation and multiplicity that characterize the phenomenal world. This name is very important because it helps clarify a common misunderstanding about the Atma. When we hear Vedanta say, "You are Brahman," we automatically tend to assume that Atma is part of Brahman, like a piece of jigsaw puzzle. This name explicitly negates this misconception. Brahman has no parts, no divisions. The Atma too has no parts, no divisions. This name conveys two profound insights which are core to Advaita Vedanta. Firstly, it shows that you are Brahman, wholly, completely, and indivisibly. When Vedanta declares that you are Brahman, it means precisely that. Brahman and your Atma are identical. You are the same partless, divisionless, all-pervading whole, the Sat Chit Ananda. Secondly, it points to the oneness of everything. There is no difference between your Atma and another person's Atma. There is only one Atma. There is only one Brahman that appears as this multiplicity that you call the universe. Let me explain with an analogy. Imagine Brahman as the vast ocean and the entire universe as reflections on its surface. When you look at the reflection, there appears to be millions of different entities. That's just an illusion. There is only one ocean. Every reflection in the ocean can truthfully claim that it is the ocean. This realization that I am Brahman is also the profound realization that I am everyone and everything in the universe. That is why realizing your true nature leads to Sarvatma Bhava, a deep understanding that everything is you. Thus, Nishkala is an incredibly important name for comprehending the ultimate oneness of Atma and Brahman. The natural consequence of Sarvatma Bhava, the profound realization of the oneness of all, is an unparalleled state of inner calm and serenity. This brings us to the 141st name in the Lalita Sahasranama, Shanta, the personification of peace. Shanta simply means she who is ever serene or she who is peace personified. It can also be understood as she is peace itself. If you observe, this is a notable exception within the Ni series of names, as it is the only one that doesn't begin with Ni. This is because peace or Shanti isn't an attribute that needs to be negated from Brahman. Rather, it is considered the intrinsic nature or inherent state of the ultimate unconditioned reality itself. She represents the profound stillness of the Absolute, which remains serene and undisturbed regardless of the ceaseless activity and changes occurring within creation. As we have seen before, the syllable Sham is highly significant in Sanskrit. It's the root of words like Shambhu and Shankara and signifies peace, happiness, welfare, and profound auspiciousness. It's even considered Amrita Bijam, seed syllable of immortality, due to its connection with eternal blissful states. When you combine Sham with Antam, which means culmination, Shantam literally translates to the culmination of all auspiciousness, or the highest state of peace and happiness. Therefore, Shanta signifies that she is that ultimate state, the very pinnacle of all prosperity and serene well being. Having explored Shanta, we now turn to a name that speaks to the inner state that allows for such profound tranquility. This is the 142nd name, Nishkama, the desireless reality. This name means she who is free from desires. This name signifies that the Divine Mother is utterly self sufficient and complete. The concept of Nishkama aligns with the Advaitic understanding of Brahman as Satchit Ananda, a state of absolute fulfillment that requires nothing external to itself. Her desirelessness implies that all creation and cosmic play originate not from a need, but from her spontaneous inherent nature and divine will, without any personal attachment to outcomes. The goddess who is whole and complete can lack nothing and therefore desires nothing. Lord Krishna beautifully describes this state of completeness in the Bhagavad Gita using an analogy. He says, Apurya manam achala pratishtam, referring to the ocean which does not swell or deplete, no matter how much water flows into it or evaporates from it. Its state of completeness remains undisturbed. Meditating on Lalita as Nishkama inspires us to transcend our own worldly desires and attachments, recognizing that true happiness and liberation come from a state of inner completeness rather than the fulfillment of external wants. This understanding is vital for progressing on the path to self realization, as it helps us to dissolve the illusion that happiness lies in external acquisitions and fosters a deeper connection with the unconditioned, attributeless Brahman. We now turn to a name that highlights her inherent freedom from any external disturbance. This is the 143rd name, Nirupaplava. This name carries two significant meanings: she who is indestructible and she who is free from afflictions. Nirupaplava directly asserts her imperishable and unafflicted nature. This aligns perfectly with the Advaitic understanding of Brahman as eternally existent, pure and blissful, untouched by the limitations and pains of our conditioned reality. She is not subject to decay, harm, or any kind of external or internal suffering. Her freedom from afflictions implies that she is the ultimate source of peace and stability, serving as a refuge to those caught in the turmoil of samsara. Interestingly, the word Upaplava itself also means the boat that helps us cross over samsara. This secondary meaning powerfully reinforces that meditating on her as Nirupaplava not only reveals her intrinsic freedom but also highlights her role as the very means by which we can navigate and transcend the ocean of suffering. Meditating on Lalita as Nirupaplava encourages us to seek that which is eternal and inherently free from suffering, rather than being solely focused on transient worldly experiences. It helps us to recognize the inherent indestructibility and freedom from suffering of our own Atma, which is ultimately non-different from Brahman. We now come to the 144th name in the Lalita Sahasranama, Nitya Mukta, the eternally liberated. Its literal meaning is she who is eternally free or she who is eternally liberated. This name signifies that Brahman, the ultimate reality, is inherently free and does not need to achieve liberation, as it is never in bondage. Her eternal freedom implies that she is the very source of liberation for all beings, and by her very nature, she grants liberation to her devotees. This is a profoundly important name because it tells us something fundamental about our own Atma. It helps us recognize that liberation is not something we acquire from an external source, nor is it a future state to be attained. Liberation is simply what has always been our true nature. We are free, we have always been free. This feeling of limitation and bondage is merely an illusion. I used the analogy of the ocean and its reflection earlier when discussing the name Nishkala. Let's expand on that same analogy to understand the concept of Nitya Mukta. Imagine Brahman as that vast, boundless ocean, and your individual self, the Atma, as one of those reflections on its surface. From the perspective of the reflection, it might feel separate, limited, or even bound by the surface. But what does this reflection need to do to become the ocean? Think about it for a second. Nothing at all. It was always the ocean. Its perceived separation was merely an optical illusion. The reflection doesn't need to acquire anything. It simply needs to recognize its true inherent nature. Similarly, our own true self, the Atma, is eternally free and identical with the eternally liberated Brahman. The feeling of being limited or bound is an illusion, just like the perceived separation of the reflection. Nitya Mukta signifies that liberation is not an attainment but the profound realization of this inherent eternal freedom, this recognition that we have always been Brahman. Now we move to the 145th name in the Lalita Sahasranamam, Nirvikara, the changeless reality, which literally means she who is not subject to change or modification, or simply she who is changeless. This name signifies that the Divine Mother is utterly beyond all forms of transformation or modification. The entire phenomenal world is subject to constant change. As the saying goes, the only constant is change. Vedanta says that every living being and all created phenomena in the world are subject to 6 types of modifications known as Shadvikara. These are Asti, existence, initially in a potential form, Jayate, birth, Vardate, growth, Viparinamate, physical changes or transformations, Apakshiyate, decay or waning, Nashyati, death or destruction. Everything that has a birth must eventually face decay and death. However, Brahman, the ultimate reality, is inherently changeless and is free from all these transformations. Lalita Tripurasundari, in her aspect as Nirvikara, strives to take us to this state that is devoid of these modifications by showing us that our own true self, the Atma, is inherently birthless, deathless, and immortal. It is the eternal, unchanging witness of all changes. Now we move to the 146th name in the Lalita Sahasranamam, Nishprapancha, the reality beyond the universe. The term Prapancha refers to the universe. Because it is the product of the Pancha Bhutas, the universe is called Prapancha. So, Nishprapancha literally means she who is beyond the universe or she who is not the universe. Then a question automatically arises. If the Divine Mother pervades the whole universe, how can we say she is not the universe? To understand this, let's visit our ocean analogy again. The reflections on the ocean are not the ocean itself. All the multiplicity, change, and action that happens within the reflection doesn't touch the ocean in any way, even though it appears on the ocean and seems to be intimately connected to the ocean. The ocean is beyond the reflection in every sense. The reflection exists in the ocean and is dependent on the ocean for its existence. But the ocean is in no way dependent on the reflection for its existence. Similarly, the entire universe exists in her, but she does not exist in the universe. Therefore, we should understand that this is also the nature of our Atma. It is unaffected and untouched by the happenings in the universe. All the vikaras belong to the prapancha and not the Atma. Hence, Atma too is nirvikara and nishprapancha. This nishprapanchatvam of Atma is what Lord Krishna describes in a famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha na chainam kledayantyapo na shochayati marutaha. Which means weapons cannot cut the Atma, nor can fire burn it. Water cannot drench it, nor can wind dry it. Just like nothing that happens in the reflection can affect the ocean, the Panchabhutas like fire, air, etc. cannot touch the Atma. Thus, as Nishprapancha, Lalita is the transcendent reality beyond the entire manifested universe, remaining untouched and unaffected by its play. Following Nishprapancha, the reality beyond the universe, we now move to the 147th name in the Lalita Sahasranama, Nirashraya. This name means she who is not dependent on anything or anyone. Nirashraya directly asserts her absolute independence and self-sufficiency. Now you might recall that the 132nd name, Niradhara, had a similar meaning, which means she who does not have any other support. You may wonder why the Sahasranamam uses two words which appear to be synonyms. This is because the Sahasranamam is gently shifting our perspective from the macroscopic Brahman to the microscopic Atma. It is continually reiterating that everything that is true about Brahman is equally true about the Atma. Generally, we tend to think that Atma lives in the body, meaning the body is the ashraya, support or home of the Atma. When the body ceases to exist, the Atma also ceases. This name, Nirashraya, powerfully reiterates that the Atma, being Brahma Swarupam, the very nature of Brahman, does not require any support or abode. It is in fact the all-pervading support of the universe. As the saying goes, Swatmaiva Devata Prokta Lalita Vishwa Vigraha. That Lalita Tripurasundari who pervades the universe is indeed our very own Atma. Let us go back to our ocean and reflection analogy to understand this better. Imagine a particular reflection on the ocean, believing that it exists only within its specific shape and form, and that when the reflection disappears, it ceases to exist. With the name Nirashraya, the Sahasranamam is reiterating the profound truth that the reflection is and always was the ocean itself. It is not a separate entity that comes into being and then ceases to exist. Its perceived form and boundaries are merely an illusion. Similarly, our individual Atma is not dependent on the body or any other external support for its existence. Its true nature is the boundless, independent Brahman. Following Nirashraya, the absolutely independent reality, we now encounter the 148th name, Nitya Shuddha. This means she who is eternally pure. You might notice its similarity to Niranjana, which is the 133rd name, which describes her as free from the stain of ignorance. While many names in the Ni series reinforce similar aspects of Brahman's transcendental nature, each offers a unique angle or deeper emphasis. Nitya Shuddha highlights that although the goddess as Atma pervades the entire body as the very life force, she remains untouched by the imperfections of the body. The Vedas beautifully describe the Atma with the phrase Asparshacha Mahan Suchihi, meaning it is untouched and supremely pure. Let's use our familiar ocean and reflection analogy once again. The reflection exists in the ocean, and it is only because of the ocean that the reflection exists. Yet, none of the attributes of the reflection, its beauty or ugliness, its stillness or turbulence, can ever touch or affect the vast ocean. Similarly, the very same Atma pervades and animates even the greatest sages and the most tyrannical individuals in the world. But the Atma itself remains untouched by both their virtues and their flaws. It is and always remains eternally pure. Following Nitya Shuddha, the eternally pure, we now arrive at the 149th name in the Lalita Sahasranama, Nitya Buddha, the eternally awake consciousness. This name literally means she who is eternally wise or she who is forever knowledge. It encapsulates the concept of the ever awake consciousness or Prajnana Gana Swarupini as the goddess Lalita Tripurasundari is often described. While our previous names primarily focused on the Sat, existence aspect of the goddess, Nitya Buddha takes a pivotal turn to Chit, consciousness aspect. This name describes Lalita Devi as the unchanging, self-luminous and all-pervading consciousness from which all knowledge and wisdom originate. Her very being is wisdom. It's not merely an attribute she possesses. I used the dream analogy previously to explain what pure existence or Sat means. When explaining the name Nirguna, we noted that everything in your dream, every person, object, color, and sound is a product of your own consciousness. And if you could strip away all the specific attributes of an object in your dream, its form, its color, its function, what would remain is pure existence or Sat. We always associate existence with objects. A ball exists, the sky exists, a person exists. That is why pure existence or Sat is a hard concept to grasp when separated from an object. The same is true for pure Chit or pure knowledge. Just like Sat, knowledge too is generally associated with objects. I know this thing, I know this person. What Nitya Buddha tells us is that the goddess is pure knowledge without any attributes. Lalita Tripurasundari's wisdom is not a product of learning, observation, or accumulated experience which are characteristic of human knowledge. This objective acquired knowledge is called Aparavidya in Vedanta. Whereas Lalita Tripurasundari's wisdom is the self-illuminating intelligence which inherently knows without needing an external object to complete its knowing function. This is called Paravidya in Vedanta. Aparavidya refers to empirical worldly knowledge which is always limited and dualistic. Paravidya refers to transcendent spiritual knowledge which is non-dual and leads to liberation. The 93rd name, Kulantasta, which we discussed sometime back in the part 15 of this series, explains exactly this. We spoke about the fundamental triad, knower, known, and the process of knowing. We said that the goddess is present in the middle, between the knower and the thing that is known, in the form of the very process of knowledge. The Divine Mother is not merely an external observer or a passive object of knowledge. Instead, it is because of her presence, her active principle within us, that anything at all is known. She is that fundamental thing because of which any knowing happens. This implies that Devi is consciousness itself rather than merely possessing consciousness. Now, let's go back to the dream analogy to really understand pure Chit. When all dream objects disappear, when the dream world is utterly gone, then you can make an argument that nothing exists. How can you claim there is something called pure existence? Who has seen it? Think about it for a second. When all the dream objects disappear, how do you even know there is nothing? The answer lies in the witnessing consciousness. There is something witnessing the nothingness. Even when no dream objects exist, there is an awareness of that emptiness. This is precisely the awareness that you experience in a deep, dreamless state. All the dream objects are gone, your body and mind is dormant, yet there is a quality of knowing. This is the pure awareness devoid of all attributes. This is Chit, the all pervading and non specific, non objective knowledge, which is called Nitya Buddha. So, when we contemplate Nitya Buddha, we should understand that this inherent perfect wisdom is already within us, awaiting realization. It's not something to be gained from outside, but rather our very own fundamental nature. On a fascinating side note, just like your dream world cannot exist without this pure consciousness, scientists are discovering that our physical universe too cannot exist without a witness, without an observer. I have explored this topic in a series of videos titled Quantum Physics and Vedanta. Please watch it if you're interested. And with Nitya Buddha, the eternally awake consciousness, I bring this video to a close. Our fascinating journey into the Nishabda, the name signifying the wordless and the transcendent, continues. In our next video, we'll explore the remaining names in this powerful series. If this exploration has resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with fellow seekers, and subscribe to Temples, Books, and Science. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're notified the moment our next video is released. May the grace of the goddess Lalita Tripurasundari, the ultimate Nitya Buddha, illuminate your path to true wisdom. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Namaste.